Welcome to Capitalize Your Finances, the podcast that's your ultimate guide to mastering personal finances and unlocking the secrets of entrepreneurship. Each week, we dive into the world of personal finance and business development and have fascinating conversations with industry experts, seasoned entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who share their insights, strategies, and stories to help you get ahead in life. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur looking to scale your business or someone just starting out on your financial path, this podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration and actionable insights.
Welcome back to Capitalize Your Finances. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Paniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And on today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to teach your children about money, business, and investing the right way. I have seen so many innocent, vulnerable parents try so hard to do the right things for their kids when it comes to these topics. And it's not your fault. Most of them drop the ball. And it's not that they drop the ball in the fact that they just say, screw it, like the kid's just going to screw up. Or they'll say, well, I've done all I can and like that's enough. You just don't take it far enough. And there's so many tips and tricks and strategies that I'm going to give you today so your kid can become infinitely more successful than you ever could have imagined. And that's okay. That's what we want our kids to have, right? Now, before we get into today's episode, as always, if you're interested in the books, the course, the previous episodes that we have, head on over to capitalizepodcast.com where you can get all of our content in that hub. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Now, when I was writing this episode and I was thinking about, okay, how do we attack, I should take that back because we're not attacking the kids, but how do I attack this topic of capitalizing on your kids' overall financial success? The one thing that I thought would be the easiest place to start is the lemonade stand. And this is more of an entrepreneurial and business type of advice, but, and I've said this many times before, I'm going to say it again, I became a better investor and planner once I became a business owner. And the reason for that is you learn a lot of these things as you go. It's not academic jargon. So for the lemonade stand, we all know what a lemonade stand is. Most kids, they say, Mommy, Daddy, I want to go and I want to make money. I want to get into business. You go and buy them the lemonade. You build this, or not even build, you buy an IKEA table or something, and you go outside your garage and you sell a couple cups of lemonade and no one else really comes and buys any. So then you buy the whole thing to make your kid feel good about it. And that's basically it. And that is the farthest thing from the truth about business, other than, unlike in this scenario, right? Your parents aren't going to be there to just buy the company if it goes debunk. So one thing that I would do, and I've been daydreaming about this with our little one. Abby's she's 1 year old, so we're a little ways out from that. But for the lemonade stand, this is how I would start with it. So let's say you're talking to your kids and say, hey, I don't know, little Johnny or whatever, do you want to get into business? Yeah, I want to get into business. Okay, well, how have you thought about getting into business? Of course, kids haven't. So what I would do is say, okay, let's go to the store and let's go buy the materials for the lemonade stand. And as you're going up and down the aisles, they're going to be excited. Because of course, as a parent, like you're their superhero. But don't let this opportunity go to waste. And every single second of this really real life simulation is a phenomenal learning experience. Show them the different types of lemonades and the different price points and saying, okay, what type of lemonade? Do you want really quality lemonade or do you want the cheaper lemonade just due to affordability? If you buy the IKEA table, you want to make sure you know what the costs are. And the reason why I bring this all up is for those of you that run a business, you know exactly where I'm going with this. You are now teaching your kids the expense side of running a business, which actually in turn will teach them how to understand expenses if they choose to get into this business and become an investor or a financial planner. Now, once you get home, obviously you got to build everything out. You got to get everything ready. When you go out in front of your garage and you set the lemonade stand up, there's probably going to be some heartbreak. Okay, there's probably not going to be, unless you live just on a super busy street. If you live in a cul-de-sac, God help you. But there's not probably going to be a lot of foot traffic. And so when you have these sales, or very limited sales in this case, come through the door, you obviously want to track all of those. It's after the day is done, this is what I would say. I would sit down with your child and go, okay, what did you learn? Now, before you give them advice on expenses and calculating things, just listen to what they have to say. You would be astounded at how much your children are going to learn in just these couple steps. Now, if they start talking about expenses, that's really good. It gets their mind to think about what things actually cost. If you start to go down the rabbit hole of, well, there weren't a lot of people coming to the booth or to the table, the next thing I would say is, okay, well, next week, I've got a better idea. Let's go and put the lemonade stand outside of a Whole Foods. Now, the reason why I would say that is you're going to have a different type of customer going to Whole Foods as opposed to, your local mini mart, okay, or a Walmart or whatever. And the reason why I'd start with Whole Foods is, one, Whole Foods, whole paycheck, it's a little bit more expensive, but the quality of the customer, it's going to be elevated. But you're also then at that point teaching your child how to communicate with that type of customer. Let's say you go to a mini mart or a Walmart or somewhere where, like the weekend after that, where it's a different demographic. They are now learning how to communicate with a different demographic. So then after the weeks that go by, you could actually tell your child, wait a second, you learned expenses. You learned, oh my gosh, I make a lot more, I'm just going to say Whole Foods because it's easier, versus the mini mart. So now you just learned the value of locating your business accordingly. So the value of location. You now know how to communicate to different types of people. So now you just built up communication skills. And you actually now know how to calculate profit. And just by using that lemonade stand, you are quickly becoming one of, if not the greatest investors that your family has ever seen. So that's what I would do with the lemonade stand. It does not start and stop with buying some lemonade powder, going outside your garage for a couple hours on a blistering hot day, basically crucifying your child's hope and dreams of becoming a business owner someday and bailing them out. It should take a couple weekends, but after those couple weekends, they may not thank you initially, but decades down the road, they are going to be immensely grateful that you took them through that process. Now, the second topic I wanted to talk about before we get into the commercial break is one that we all love and care about. It's the topic of taxes. That was sarcasm. No one likes it, okay? But it's valuable to know. So I'm not going to name names, and my brother's going to know who I'm talking about, but one of our dear friends, when she first started working, I remember she was saying to us that she got her first paycheck, and her parents were actually telling us this. And her parents said that she came home from work and she was really upset. She goes, I think the company is it's stealing money from me. Like, who's FICA? And the parents reminded this child, who is now grown, no, that's not a person. Those are taxes that need to be taken out. And, we laugh about it now that we're adults, but, as a child, especially when you start working, if you're not familiar with the concept of taxes, you get a rude awakening really, really quick. So on the lemonade stand, or with your chores around the house, this is something I would do. Let's say that, and I'll just use the chores for an example, just to make it really easy. You say, all right, I don't know, little Tommy, you go mow the lawn, and after you mow the lawn, I'll pay you $10. Great. Your kid goes and mows the lawn. You come back inside, he or she comes back inside, and you give them $8. Now they're going to look at you like, where's my money? And you say, well, I gave you the $10, but that was before taxes. Taxes are withheld, therefore you're netting $8. Now they're going to ask you, and they're probably going to get a little bit irritated with you that you lied. No, I didn't lie. That's how the world works. And that is a really great way to slap them in the face with reality on understanding how taxes work. Now, when it comes to the lemonade stand, I'm just going to throw numbers up here. Let's say that your kid just crushed it. And all in, the lemonade stand cost $50 to make. And with the goods and services and all that. And let's say that the company, the lemonade company, for those of you that aren't watching, I'm using air quotes, brings in $200. So the profit was $150. Not bad. Well, any business owner is going to tell you, you don't keep that $150. And so that's a great chance for you to explain to your child, hey, out of that $150, you've got to understand that you're not going to keep all of that. There are taxes that are going to be taken out of that. So you may only get 125 of those dollars, as an example. And you know, the lemonade stand in the concept of taxes, it is really elementary to you and I that have been in the working world for some time. But looking back on it, this was, at least from my point of view, I wish I knew a lot of this stuff when I started. Now, before we go to the commercial break, I just want you to know what's coming down the pike, because we're actually going to talk about some investment tips and strategies for your child. We're also going to talk about how to properly budget your child's income, whether it's chores or the dreaded lemonade stand. And we may even sprinkle in a tidbit on how to save for retirement, because I didn't even get into the point of, hey, out of that $10, if you avoided taking that money and you contribute it to a retirement account before taxes, you don't pay taxes on it. Or if you did Roth or any of that stuff. And again, none of our children are going to become the next Warren Buffett here, but is the more information that you have at your fingertips to provide your children, and the more that they are thinking about this early on, compounding works in every aspect of our lives. And with your children, it's the most valuable tool that they have at their fingertips. So we're going to take a commercial break. I'm going to get a sip of water. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Capitalizers, this episode is sponsored by the best-selling book, Capitalize Your Finances, the how-to framework that takes you from compoundingly clueless to monetarily magnificent. Regardless of where you're at in your financial life, whether you're just beginning to express interest and commitment to your personal finances, at the pinnacle of your career, winding down into retirement, or thinking about your legacy for future generations, this book walks you through every step of the way so you can succeed on your terms and with your own values and passions guiding you. After reading this book, you will officially have Christopher A. Panayiotou, the Cap in Capitalize, in your back pocket, guiding you in detail through every step of the way so that you can take charge of your finances, not the other way around. Head on over to Amazon.com today and start capitalizing your finances to the fullest with this incredible book, Capitalize Your Finances, the how-to financial framework that takes you from compoundingly clueless to monetarily magnificent. And now, back to the episode.
Welcome back to the show. As before, I was saying, we were talking about the lemonade stand, the taxes, all that fun stuff with your kiddos. We're going to get into the concept of budgeting for your children, as frankly, that is going to be where the compounding success really takes off. And it's not just, hey, I want my kid to just make as much money as humanly possible. It's understanding the values, not only of money, but the values that they have within themselves, within their communities, etc. And the reason why I bring this up is there's so many different ways to skin the cat when it comes to laying out a budget. So for example, let's say that you break it down where you explain to your kids, okay, you know what? You can take everything and go and spend it, but you're not going to get very far because you're basically going to have to wake up every day and recreate the wheel, meaning, you're going to have to go and get another sale or keep working, grinding away to just get back to break even. So yes, living within your means, that is really valuable. But let's say that you told your children, whatever you bring in, let's say that 25% of that money goes into savings. Let's say 25% of that goes towards your standard of living. And as a child, it's obviously going to be a lot less than that, but you just want to get them to think about this stuff. Let's say 25% of it goes towards investing, and then 25%, the last 25%, goes towards something fun. The point that I'm getting at is your kids need to understand the differences between types of money. One thing I also didn't mention, and I thought about this, so years ago, I remember I was meeting with someone, he never became a client, but he was telling me how he educated his children on the rule of thirds. So there was a third of his monthly income that he took, and it was towards investing. And then there was a third that he used for daily living. And then that remaining third was for charity. I wish I knew this earlier on, and it's easy for me to say now, just where I'm at financially speaking, but the earlier that your child can understand the value of charitably giving back, and it doesn't have to be money. I mean, it could be just your time, your heart, your values, but a money side of things, that is important because there's a reason why these nonprofits are called nonprofit. They are counting on donors. If you can get your children to understand taking a piece of their income and gifting it to charities or a charity that they truly value, are they going to make a huge return on investment with that? No, they're not. They're actually going to lose money on that. But the value of giving back to something that they believe in, it's something that qualifiably is the greatest rate of return you're ever going to earn. And I share that vulnerably because, I grew up in a very investment focused, and I would actually go as far as to say investment obsessive household. And when I started the business, it really doubled down because you don't have money when you start a business. And then it wasn't going well initially, like most businesses. And then, so not only have I personally compounded to the point where, okay, our money is making money. We're living within our framework, the Capitalize Your Finances framework. But for me, I still have to get over the fact that it is the right thing to do to give to these charities that we love and know and care about. But I have so many biases that I need to conquer that I wish I conquered earlier on in life because that was not given to me. So for you listening, get your kids to understand how to allocate their budget accordingly. And really as a bonus, make sure that they give a little bit to something that they love and appreciate because it's going to fill their heart up more than anything. Now, the last point I want to talk about is the investing side of things. So when I was getting into investing, like there was no such thing as Robinhood or like these online, or if there was an online trading account like through an iPhone, I sure as heck didn't use it. I think I used something known as Scott Trade, which was bought by TD Ameritrade years ago. So the reason why I bring this up is there's so many different accounts that you can set up for your kids today, much more than what I had back in the day, but that's not necessarily a good thing. And the options that I would recommend looking into They're kind of archaic, but they're still around and they're still very popular and there's a lot of use to them. There is a UGMA and UTMA account. Uniform gift to minor, uniform transfer to minor accounts. And the reason why that's valuable is your kids aren't going to get the full access to those accounts until 18 to 20 or 21, depending on what state you live in. But what's really valuable with that is you get to educate your children on, hey, this money, it technically is yours. You don't get to use it until you are of age, but this money is set aside for you to invest and grow your net worth accordingly. And the reason why this is really valuable is you can actually tell your children, hey, you cannot go and trade this on your own, but I'll tell you what, if you look up companies that are traded, like publicly traded stocks, that you have interest in, you've done your research, you believe in it based on that research, if you tell me, and I'm just going to use me, right? Like if Abby came to me and my wife Stephanie and said, hey, mommy, daddy, I want to go buy XYZ company. That's not the time for you to cast your opinion on if it's a good or bad investment. That's the time for you to just say, okay. And you've got to withhold your opinion on this because regardless if the company is a good company or a bad company, your child is going to learn from their successes, or most importantly, and I actually think this is more valuable, their own mistakes. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I want to talk about the mistake side of things, because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I made this stock investment and it was a really bad decision. Now, if you put all your money on black and obviously it doesn't go well, then yeah, that's kind of on you. But I can tell you from an investment standpoint, the world of investing, not planning, the world of investing is a very forgiving world. And I actually want to talk about a study that was casted, I think it was a couple of years back. So in the 1970s, there was a concept called the Nifty 50. And the reason why I bring that up is these were the 50 companies in the United States where you invest in them. And according to back then, you basically could buy them at any price and there's no way you would lose money. Yikes. There was some controversy on whether or not Walmart was part of the Nifty 50 because I believe it went public in 1970. So for the purpose of this study, and I'm trying to remember the study name and I'm just blanking on it, but basically what this study did is it assumed Walmart was part of the Nifty 50 and it took Walmart along with the other 49 companies and it bought an equally weighted position in that portfolio. So basically 2% each. So each company was not a lot of the portfolio. What they also did is they assumed that between 1970 and today, or I think through the study it was 2018 or 19, they assumed that every company other than Walmart went to zero. And Walmart kept doing what it's doing. Because like Walmart is, I mean, whether people like Walmart or not, like you can't deny they've been ragingly successful on a global scale. What was crazy about that study is even if all of those other companies went to zero and Walmart did what they did, that portfolio would have, now this is barely, but still beaten the market by like 0.5%. And the whole point of that study that I want to get across to you is investing is a very forgiving business. And so if your child does make that mistake, that is okay because you have to encourage at that point to keep going. Now, maybe don't keep going in the company that got them there, but keep going and keep their options open because all it takes is a couple really, really good investments in your life and you will be successful. And actually, don't take my word for it. Take Warren Buffett's. Last year, so in 2023's Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholder meeting, Warren Buffett, who, safe to say, is one of, if not the most successful investors of all time, in his 93 years on Earth, he has basically made his net worth off of 12 investments. 12. Now, how many investments has Warren Buffett made over the years? Thousands of investments. And he can count down, he whittles it down to 12 decisions that made his career. That's crazy. And so what you need to think of is, okay, go back to what I said earlier. All you need to do is be right a couple times, maybe just once, and you're golden. Now, if your child does not want to invest in companies through their accounts, let's say they just want to set it and forget it and it's just simply not an interest, you could get them to understand the value of investing in the market. And there are index funds out there that do just that, okay? Let's say that they are interested, but they don't necessarily have the confidence of the money mind to invest in individual companies. Well, one thing that you could do is you could look up mutual funds where, and you can look up the asset managers that actually manage those funds. And the reason why I bring this up is, let's say that your child says, hey, I think I really like, and I'm just going to pick a name out, I really like Nike, but I don't really understand Nike, like how to value it. And what if there was a mutual fund company out there where an asset manager that's in charge of this fund, one of their largest holdings is Nike? Well, that probably tells me that guy who really knows what he's talking about or she's talking about understands that Nike is really valuable, but actually knows how to value it. So it may be worth your child's time to buy that mutual fund and then over time learn alongside this investor. And unlike stock investors where you're consistently doing the diligence with every company, you're just doing diligence on that asset manager and learning how his or her mind works. That's what I did for years. It's not like if you can't beat them, join them. It's if you don't understand something, why don't you align yourself with the people that do and learn from them? I actually spoke about this when I went on the Millennial Investing podcast with Kyle Grieve a couple weeks ago. One of my favorite investors of all time is one that most people have never heard of. His name's Robert Heilbrunn. And Robert Heilbrunn for years knew just enough to know what he didn't know. And he was not as confident in the direct investment side of things of investing in businesses. Now, he got a little lucky because he surrounded himself with the right people. I think his first fund he bought into was Benjamin Graham, Warren Buffett's teacher, Walter Sloz, who's one of the top investors of all time, and then Ben Graham introduced him to Warren Buffett's limited partnership fund, which was arguably the best performing asset of all time. So the dude got really lucky with timing, but he understood, I don't know what I don't know, but I know these guys in this case do. So I'm going to invest alongside them so I can learn and get paid to learn through their returns. So that should give your children plenty on how to teach them about money, business, and investing. And I really hope you found this valuable. If you had any questions about today's show, if you have any personal questions that you want me to answer on future shows, if you have a personal question you just want to shoot at me and have me answer it behind the scenes, or if you're listening in and you want to be a guest on the show, head on over to capitalizepodcast.com, shoot me and my team an inquiry. We look at it every single day and we try to get back to you as best we can within 48 business hours. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Poniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing.
The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. These materials are provided for general information and educational purposes based upon publicly available information from sources believed to be reliable. We cannot assure the accuracy or completeness of these materials. The information in these materials may change at any time and without notice. This material should not be considered a solicitation of an offer to sell or buy any specific security or offering. Investors should consult a financial professional to determine whether risks associated with an investment in the shares are compatible with their investment objectives. Roth IRA distributions of principal from a Roth IRA are tax-free. However, any earnings will be taxed at ordinary income rates, and a 10% penalty tax will apply if withdrawn prior to age 59.5 or within 5 years of the date the Roth IRA was established, whichever is longer. Before investing, carefully consider a mutual fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus which contains this and other information, call your financial advisor. Read the prospectus carefully before investing. Christopher A. Paniotu is a registered representative with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. The people and companies mentioned in this podcast are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Capitalize Your Finances.